The wacky origins of cartoons, from Big Paper to Mickey Mouse. Hey everyone, what's up? It's Your Name back with another video. Today we're talking about cartoons, but not just like cartoons, although that's always a good time, am I right? No, today we're going way back in time to discover how cartoons even became a thing. I mean, think about it. We've got shows like SpongeBob with a talking sponge living in a pineapple under the sea, anime with characters who can shoot fire from their hands, and like a million different Disney movies with singing animals. But how did we get here? Who was the first person to think, hey, you know what would be awesome? If I drew a bunch of pictures fast and made them look like they were moving? Well, get ready for a wild ride through the history of cartoons because we're about to find out. We're talking zoetropes, stick figures, and the OG cartoon superstar, Mickey Mouse himself. So buckle up, smash that like button, and let's get animated. Okay, so before we dive into the wacky world of early animation, let's take a step back. What are we even talking about when we say cartoon? I mean, yeah, we all have our favorite animated shows and movies, but where did the word cartoon even come from? Did some genius just wake up one day and yell cartoon? And everyone was like, whoa, that's a way better name than moving pictures. Well, not exactly. Turns out the word cartoon has been around for way longer than you might think. And get this, it actually comes from the Italian word cartone. It basically means big paper, I know, right? Who would have thought? Back in the day, like way back in the Middle Ages, artists used cartoons as sketches for their big fancy paintings. They'd draw out their ideas on these huge pieces of paper before they even touched a paintbrush. So basically, a cartoon was just a rough draft, a blueprint for a masterpiece. But somewhere along the way, something amazing happened. Somebody, and we still don't know who this genius was, decided to take those still drawings and bring them to life. They figured out a way to make those sketches move, to tell stories, and to make people laugh or cry, depending on the cartoon. But how did they do it? How did they go from these giant sketches to the moving pictures we know and love today? That's what we're about to find out. So stick around because things are about to get interesting. Alright folks, buckle up because we're time traveling back to the 1800s, and let me tell you, things were pretty different back then. No smartphones, no internet, no Netflix, can you even imagine? But even back then, people craved entertainment, and they were fascinated by the idea of moving pictures. Now keep in mind, this was way before fancy cameras and computers, so how did they even begin to make pictures move? Well, they had to get creative. Enter the zoetrope, a crazy contraption that looks like a cross between a drum and a flipbook. Imagine this, you've got this cylinder with slits cut into the sides. Inside, you place a strip of pictures, each one slightly different from the last. You spin the cylinder, look through the slits, and boom! The pictures blur together, creating the illusion of movement. It's like magic, but with science. People were mesmerized by these early animation devices. It was like seeing the impossible happen right before their eyes. I mean, we're easily amused today by videos of cats riding Roombas, so you can imagine how mind-blowing a zoetrope must have been back then. But the zoetrope was just the beginning. Inventors and artists kept experimenting, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. They created all sorts of crazy devices with names like praxinoscopes and phenakistoscopes. Try saying that 5 times fast. Each invention brought us one step closer to the cartoons we know and love today. It was a time of discovery, innovation, and a whole lot of trial and error. And you know what? It's pretty inspiring to think that even without all the fancy technology we have today, those early pioneers were able to achieve something so groundbreaking. Okay, so we've talked about the origins of the word cartoon and the crazy devices that made moving pictures possible. But now for the big question, what was the very first cartoon? What groundbreaking piece of animation changed the world forever? Now you might be thinking of classics like Mickey Mouse and Steamboat Willie, right? That iconic black and white animation with Mickey whistling on a steamboat. Well, hold your horses because Mickey didn't hit the scene until 1928. We're going even further back, to a time before Disney, before sound and cartoons, even before color. The year was 1908, and a French artist named Émile Cohl was about to make history. Now, Émile wasn't working with fancy computers or animation software. Nope, he was armed with nothing but a pen, paper, and a whole lot of patience. See, Émile created a short film called Phantasmagorie. And trust me, the name is pretty fitting. This wasn't your typical cartoon with a clear storyline and talking animals. Phantasmagorie was like a fever dream brought to life. Imagine this, a stick figure, just a simple line drawing, suddenly comes to life. He stretches, morphs into different shapes, and interacts with all sorts of bizarre objects. A wine bottle transforms into a flower, an elephant appears out of nowhere, and everything is constantly in motion. It was weird. It was wonderful, and it was unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. The whole film was only about a minute and a half long, but it blew people's minds. Why? Because Emil didn't just draw a few pictures, he drew 700 individual frames by hand. That's right, 700, each one slightly different from the last, creating the illusion of movement when played in sequence. Can you imagine the dedication that took? No fancy software to copy and paste frames, no shortcuts, just pure artistic grit. Emil Cole, you were a true animation pioneer. Alright, so Emil Cole throws this crazy thing called Phantasmagory out into the world, and suddenly everyone's obsessed with animation. It's like the animation floodgates opened, and a tidal wave of creativity came pouring through. The 1910s and 1920s were like the Wild West of cartoons. Animators were experimenting with new techniques, creating more complex stories and developing characters that people actually cared about. And one of the first big cartoon stars to steal the show, Felix the Cat. This mischievous little black cat with a giant grin took the world by storm in the 1920s. And the best part? He didn't even need to talk. His expressive eyes, his mischievous grin, and his knack for getting into all sorts of trouble were enough to make audiences roar with laughter. Felix the Cat was proof that you didn't need fancy dialogue or complicated plots to create a successful cartoon. Sometimes, all you needed was a lovable character, some clever animation, and a whole lot of slapstick comedy. But then, everything changed. In 1928, a certain mouse made his debut and revolutionized the world of animation forever. I'm talking, of course, about Mickey Mouse. When Walt Disney released Steamboat Willie, it wasn't just another silent cartoon, this was something entirely different. For the first time ever, the animation was perfectly synchronized with music and sound effects. Mickey Mouse didn't just move, he danced, he whistled, he even steered a steamboat with his tail. The world went bonkers. Sound in cartoons? It was revolutionary. And just like that, cartoons weren't just silent visuals anymore. They had personality, they had voices, they had a whole new level of depth and engagement. The success of Steamboat Willie paved the way for the animated films we know and love today. It was the start of something truly magical. Alright, so we've traveled through time, we've met some animation pioneers, and we've seen how cartoons evolved from simple sketches to the blockbuster films we know and love today. But you might be wondering, why does any of this even matter? I mean, yeah, it's cool to know that cartoons started with a stick figure named Phantasmagory, but why should we care? Well, here's the thing. Cartoons aren't just mindless entertainment. They're a powerful form of storytelling, capable of making us laugh, cry, and everything in between. Think about the impact cartoons have had on our lives. From the classic Disney films we grew up with to the anime series we binge-watch today, animation has the power to transport us to different worlds, introduce us to unforgettable characters, and teach us valuable lessons about life, love, and everything in between. Without those early pioneers like Emil Cole, Felix the Cat, and Mickey Mouse, who knows what the world of animation would look like today? Would we have Pixar's heartwarming masterpieces like Toy Story and Inside Out? Would we have the epic adventures of anime like Attack on Titan and My Hero Academia? Those early animators with their hand-drawn frames and their relentless pursuit of bringing their imaginations to life paved the way for the incredible diversity and creativity we see in animation today. So the next time you sit down to watch your favorite animated show or movie, take a moment to appreciate the journey. Remember the stick figures, the zoetropes, and the silent films that started it all. Because without them, the world of animation would be a much less magical place. So, the next time you binge-watch your favorite animated series, remember, it all started over 100 years ago with a little stick figure named Phantasmagory. Who knew something so simple could spark such a global phenomenon? If you enjoyed this dive into cartoon history, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more fun facts, and let me know in the comments what your favorite cartoon is. I'm curious to see what you guys are watching. Until then, keep watching cartoons. After all, who doesn't need a little animation magic in their life? See you in the next video.